I'm always happy to claim the Jewish writer, or the Jewish comic, or the Jewish whatever. I do think it's discouraging because it's demeaning, it's reductive in the same sense as just constantly referring to Ellison or Baldwin as African American writers, as referring to Joyce Carol Oates or Toni Morrison as female. There's something not just reductive about it, there's something very, very kind of false and small about it. It's stunning the extent to which the American vernacular, because it is informed by so many tribes, can't be reduced, and certainly Philip's work could never be reduced to that kind of trope. And to the extent that it's a burden for the writer, it's been carried with a tremendous amount of insouciance or grace or whatever. But it just seems absurd to me, especially when you go back. I was talking about the great American novels, whether that consciously or not, that's as Goyish could be, in a nice way, in a way that only Roth could somehow capture. So again, it's the kind of thing that the critic's job is not an easy one, but that's just so cheap and easy. That's just. How do you feel as a Jewish American fiction?
But you said it beautifully, and I can only do with steam coming out of my ears, because that's the point.
It must be horrible.
You're allowed to claim Jews for fun. That's Harrison Ford, half Jewish. You get to do that. That's fine. But I agree with you. It's because the point is, it's of no value to the right. This idea of separating the culture out like that is so strange. As a fifth-generation American, that I have to be this, like that it's a subcategory is so strange to me. I always say, you don't give out to Candide and be like, you're not French and you're not dead, and I hope you can read this. But Jewish books, you hand to your Gentile friends and say, I hope you can find a doorway into, it's. And I think also what you're saying was listing perfectly, which is, it also is so limited because then you have to have a choice. Is James Baldwin, if we say to James Baldwin, gay writer, black writer, like if you had to choose, Toni Morrison, woman, you lose the writer, and I find it also, it would really suffocate the work. It's that tension that makes the work.
It's just the opposite of what the work does, exactly. Which is break free of all that BS.
Exactly, but I don't say that during Jewish Book Month.
We're heading for patrimony as reading, and is there anything more? I know you've told us a little more you want to say about literary patrimony. Roth is somebody whose example you followed, who got you fired up.
Yeah, it's just always a good lesson, and again, rereading it for this, I want to shy away from speaking personally about the book, but the book is so, if my mother's here, if I wrote a book like that, she would come up and stab me to death on stage. Kill me dead. But my point is, it's also that idea of that kind of honesty. To go back, I was going to say, I lost my father a few years ago, and it's a different book to go back after you've packed up your father's house. And, even that idea of re-entering books. And even it's a generational skip. Obviously, Philip's father is older than my father, but that idea that it does exactly what story's supposed to. It is exactly my experience and that idea. But again, in terms of his work and bravery, it's an unbelievably brave book.
Okay, Scott, I don't think they said in your little list of accomplishments that you recently did an interview with Philip Roth, where
no Guggenheim, but I
got Guggenheim, but you got Roth. And not only that, you walked around Newark with him, and you went to the schools.
It was June 4th.
Would you tell us a little about it?
It was, I've seen LeBron James's penis. I smoked a joint with Tupac. I got beaten up by a professional female prize fighter, but never have I. That was the pinnacle.
Must have been a great night.
Well played, sir. Never did I expect to spend a day with Philip Roth walking around Newark. It was odd because I was rereading Patrimony. It was the day of my mother-in-law's memorial service. And it was really the only day that, not that you knew that, but it was the only day that Philip could make it. And there was never any question in Lisa's mind or even in my in-laws' mind that I was making the right choice. But it was, there's that Yiddish word like beshert, because, one of the things, the transcript I have is 17 or 18,000 words. And, some of the subject matter around patrimony in particular, and it was a great day, it was a fun day. But on the ride back, it was quiet. I was tired, you were a little tired. But I talked about that sense of duty in patrimony, and I wanted to write down, to make sure I didn't get it wrong, you said it's easy to feel. And I said, for you. And part of what I was thinking, my father, I'm almost 60, both my parents are still alive. My father he's a guy, 300 pounds, diaper, Viagra, cigars. He's quite a piece of work. But I didn't grow up with him for reasons we need to go into. But he's been kind of bequeathed to me in some ways. And so when I said for you to Philip said for a lot of people. To act out of duty is actually easier than not. You don't have to say, should I, shouldn't I? It's all, should I? And, that was a magical day for me, not because I'm such a naive, ingenue type of guy, but because it just meant something to me. It meant you pick up the phone, you don't think about it. And so I don't mean to turn the day into some kind of downer or inappropriate self-disclosure, but it was the coolest day you could imagine. The laughter, that Philip brought, because I was worried. I got to the office really early. My boss was there, the editor-in-chief. He goes, what are you doing here? I said, I feel like I'm going on a prom date. He made me a cup of coffee. It was great. It was fabulous. I didn't know. I was talking to someone earlier downstairs. I didn't say I was part of the panel. She said, well, he's a curmudgeon, and that's okay. I said, he's not a curmudgeon. He's a nice man. I'm not sure I responded.
No, you responded great. You responded great. Okay, here's a quick one. We're going to be talking, all about the books that have won prizes. There are a lot of very famous books. I just want to ask if there's anything less celebrated that some people in the room might not have read that is something that's particularly dear to your heart. I would nominate a short story called, I think, Looking at Kafka, which is a mix of fact and fiction. It almost approaches the magic of a ghostwriter, which begins with some brilliant literary criticism that almost gives you an idea of what Philip Roth would have been if he were Professor Roth and had not been a novelist and lived a different counter life as an English professor, and then suddenly veers off into a wonderful world where 9-year-old Philip in 1942 has Kafka as his Hebrew teacher and has him home to dinner, and not only is his Hebrew teacher but ends up dating his Aunt Rhoda. And it's a magical work, and I find that a lot of people, because it's not in Goodbye Columbus and it's a story, and a lot of people don't know it exists, so I nominate one, and I'd like to hear what else you might throw out there.
I'm a huge fan of Epstein, which is, this is, you were 27. I just circle back and just the sense of, as a kid again, or I thought of myself as a kid, that just the sense of what a big world it was, what a big strange world it was, and how one philandering Jew, could speak for the whole globe. Just in terms of emotions. When we were in Newark, someone at Weequahic High School asked for your business card. Do you have and I kept trying to imagine after that day, what would Philip Roth's business card look like? And there'd be something phallic on it. I'm sorry. So I guess I'm attached to those stories where men are acting out in ways that I've given up a long time ago, and for good reason.
I don't know which one to weigh how, but I guess I've been really enjoying, I guess in terms of voice shift, I've also been really enjoying all the new, as a huge fan of Ghostwriter, it was so wonderful to read Exit Ghost. That was like a gift to close that cycle of time with that book, and I guess I've been enjoying. Yeah, I'm just going to run through all of them now. I like the man's work.
I just want to say one quick thing that I hadn't planned to say in response to the phallic business card. And
Sorry.
no, it's good. That is that as
It would be tasteful.
yeah. That I think there's sort of a bad rap, I think, about women characters in Philip Roth's books, and I think it's completely unjustified. And this isn't the time to make a list, but I could make a list. I think that Roth's books have as many interesting minor characters wandering around through them as Dickens do. Sometimes I can't remember what book you came from, but you're in my head. And there are as many beautifully wrought, three-dimensional women characters. They're not the narrators, they're not the focus, but they are absolutely real to me. And as I get older, I appreciate, I don't remember her name, Michelle Cohen, very much from Sabbath's Theater, who is as much, I think the phrase is dipped in the fire of time as Sabbath himself. Some of these characters, they get a page, they get 4 paragraphs, but they are alive, and I just want to say I could, but I won't right now, make you a list of female characters who are, I think, forever, who are part of the work. So I just wanted to throw that in, but
Nice.
That's on the reverse side of the phallic business card. In closing, because we're going to close now, I wanted us all to say something about patrimony, which Philip Roth will be reading from as soon as we step down. One of the qualities to me that most clearly belongs to Roth's character and to his voice is vitality. And it gets really crazier and more urgent as the books go on. This thirst for life, this struggle to hold on to life no matter what it brings. I love Mickey Sabbath crying out, more defeat, more disappointment, more deceit, more loneliness, more arthritis. And there's a moment in Patrimony that I can't get over, and that's when Roth's father begins to bargain with the doctor. He has a brain tumor, and they're sitting discussing what will happen now. And to me, there's all this longing for life compressed into a longish paragraph, and one in which what fascinates me is that I think we can see in this paragraph where fact cedes to fiction, where the novelist takes over, where what Roth calls somewhere in the program that I saw that they give out, it just caught my eye before I came up here, the imagination going to work. And I'm going to put in a couple of ellipses here in a longer couple of paragraphs because we're short for time too, but I just wanted to read this little bit. Understand, my father said, I'm talking about just another 3 or 4 years. The original request for a couple more years had, in a matter of minutes, been extended to 3 or 4, I noticed. It occurred to me, and here I think is the moment where Roth, the novelist, even in this work of nonfiction, just takes over. It occurred to me that if we were to sit and talk together in Benjamin's office for another day or 2, my father would eventually overcome his fear of calling down even worse misery upon himself by appearing sinfully greedy, and proclaim to this doctor what had to be in his heart, which was that he wanted not just 3 or 4 years more, but to tackle the whole damn thing all over again. Another 86 years. And to me, that's just the heart of the book, and somehow the heart of a lot of his work. So, Patrimony?
There's a sentence that's not in Patrimony, but that when I was trying to talk with Philip in June about, writing's hard. Writing, I've been doing it forever. It just hasn't gotten any easier, and it was good. I wanted to learn something, and Philip shared a sentence. The ordeal is part of the commitment, and it was a mantra of sorts. And mine had been from a fat relief pitcher named Bob Wickman, who said you got to trust your stuff. So I replaced it. But the more I thought about it, not just in writing the profile of Philip for Esquire, but in going, that's at the heart of patrimony. That's at the heart of marriage. That's at the heart of a lot of things. The ordeal is part of the commitment, and I cannot think of a better koan or a better mantra, and to me, patrimony really embodies that, and that embodies patrimony.
I guess for me, it's probably in the first third of the book that this all happens, but I guess it's a very quiet thing that Philip sets up, and that's the point with writing like consciously. unconsciously, but it's really central to me, is this idea of his father giving stuff away. You know, that is they come up from the funeral, and his father is stripping the closet. You know, he said, Dad, there's people here. You know, and he's just getting rid of stuff, and it's this idea of it's just stuff, which is so gigantic, but we're also connected to it. And I found that so powerful. And then, you know, he sets up, it's just a separate, you know, as it loops around in the visual AC story, but it's back to Philip, and Philip comes home to find 10 years, I guess, after college, looking for a stamp collection, and his father's given it away, you know, to a cousin who he thinks about, but restrained himself and did not go after it. Let the cousin keep it. But then, you know, later on, and it's this idea of giving other people stuff away. It doesn't mean anything to the father, and it's just such a nice setup for just quietly they're walking, and he says that he's given his tefillin away to the synagogue on the corner. And that, to me, this idea of giving, you know, the wife's stuff and Philip's stuff from the attic, which you can totally understand, but there's just such a shift in this moment where because that's more a sharing, where he feels the need to, this one giving he needs to announce. It wasn't discovered, the other two are discovered, and this one is a confession.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
We'll let you hear the real thing.